Paul. Yeah, it's 2:35. I just got here a couple minutes ago, and I had a little time to really think about what I could say that would impress law enforcement to want to enforce the laws. You know, there seems to be this reluctance to actually enforce forgery laws. Yeah. I sent an email to about 3,000 email addresses. And I didn't get any emails this weekend. I was kind of surprised. I gave you every email address, and you decided that you're going to cover up fraud. You're going to cover up forgery. Yes. And kidnapping and conspiracy. And I was wanting to use the court system of each and every state, and I was thinking district courts. Yes. Then the federal courts. And then the United States courts. Yes. And I thought I'd sue you. But you decided no, we're just not going to do that. Now, my concern is that you've been traveling, yeah, and they have what's known as the best U.S. U.S. airport, yeah. See, Money analyzed 75 airports to find the one with the best customer experience, yes, on-time performance, amenities, and more, yes. And I realize that a lot of those that are in politics, yes, or attorneys, quite possibly judges and justices, and maybe even, well, let's say you're a mandatory reporter, yes, and you do have knowledge of forgery and kidnapping, and your thought was, well, I'm just going to take a trip. I mean, it's almost summertime, and you're going to use that vacation pay. You know, when you go to an airport, it's kind of like going to a fast food restaurant. Yes. It's really nice. I've been to the Portland airport. See, what happened was my wife and myself, we talked about going to Guam. Well, I had a client, a really good client. I'm not going to name her name, though I might a little later on. And I went to visit her in Vancouver because she was a client of mine. Well, I had to fly to the Portland airport to get to Vancouver because Vancouver's right across the river from Portland. Yes. And I could not see the actual assets of my client before I was to meet with her. Now, it looked like my left eye was kind of pointing out to me, well, you know, there is a transaction here. You could move these monies because there's no longer a surrender charge or a fee for the movement of the money. Yes. And at that time, you could get a 5.5% annuity. Yes. And it's interesting how one eye would see what the other eye doesn't. Oh, oh, oh. Now, let's say that you got one eye seeing this and another eye seeing that. There's what's known as peripheral vision. If you have the availability of limiting an individual's eyesight, yes, from the left side or the right side, it's possible that you would not see what you were not seeing. Now, let's say I look through the eyes of all of those that are sworn oaths of office. Yes. Is anybody seeing through your eyes today? How about those that are attorneys that had sworn? Yes. That they would support the laws of their individual states? Right. They would support the state constitution and the United States Constitution. Yeah. See, what happens is when I give you the documentation, because I went online today, and you still have this protection order in place. Yes. Now, I printed this off in 2017. Yes. Approximately 2 days after you said I was in Brennan, Washington. Yes. When I wasn't in Brennan. Yeah. It says right here, 6/19 of 2017. And you issued a protection order that the petitioner didn't sign. You issued a protection order where I was not given any actual due process. You issued a protection order that has the forgery of the ex officio superior court clerk. Yes. And you said, well, I can do this. But you can't. It's against the law. Now, you had a court hearing on 6/12 of 2015 without any attempt of service to myself. Yes. from June 1st of 2015 to June 12th of 2015. Yeah. Then you say that you attempted to serve me twice, right? But you did know who I was and you did know how to find me. Yes. I was homeless. Oh, oh. I was eating breakfast at the Salvation Army, probably eating lunch at the Salvation Army, the same location that you arrested me on January 4th of 2016. Yes. I think I was doing the same stuff for the whole 6 months. But you didn't want to serve me. You didn't want me to get notice and opportunity to be heard. Now you issued it for 10 years. Oh, and you issued an order to surrender weapons. Yes. And the Commissioner, Brent Basden, had a court hearing where you said the petitioner didn't have to acknowledge it, where I didn't have to have any due process. And then you served me in the Glen Public Library, humiliating me. Ooh. And then you say that sheriff's return of service not served? Yes. How can it not be served if you did serve me? Oh, well, who else were you attempting service on? Oh. And then you did have a return of service? Mm-hmm. See, this return of service is the only return of service that the law allows for. You can't say, well, we attempted to serve the petitioner because where was she living at? Brandon? Yes. The same school district right now. Return of service 827 of 2015. If you, well, the petitioner's address, right, and all her pertinent information would have had to been filed at the same time as motioning the court for a protection order. Yes. Now, I'm sitting here, yes, explaining to you what the law says. And each and every one of you seems to think that you can do what you're doing. Now, why would you have it that you can do that when you know you can't? Yes. See, I acknowledge receipt of a copy of this order, signature of the petitioner. Right. Washington State Bar Association number. Oh, her printed name. Yes. Petitioner or petitioner's lawyer must complete a law enforcement information sheet. No one else can complete the law enforcement information sheet except for the petitioner. If she didn't sign it, she didn't fill it out. Now, for some reason, this state doesn't really feel a compulsion to need to enforce the laws. And I'm having to sit here and ask myself, well, what can I do so that you can understand the importance of doing that? Now, let's say I looked at your frequent flyer miles. Yes. Why don't you get me the actual air travel of all of those that I can sue? Yes. See, when you go on a trip, yep, and you go through the Portland airport, poop, and you book the trip with the knowledge that you're going to get some air flyer miles. Yes. See, I got an encyclopedia. Yes. And the thought was there must be these frequent flyer miles. Oh, look at the flash. Frequent flyer miles. Why don't you give me all of your travel plans for the last 20 years? Yes. Excuse me. And then get the actual credit cards that you charge those travel to. Yes. And then get me your actual air miles that you do have or you've redeemed for anything of value. Now, let's say I went to suing you for actually redeeming what has value that belongs to me. Now, let's say I went to suing you. Now, I'm going to want to know of every lawsuit, yes, that did think it important as a condition of employment or in their personal recreation. Wow. Being on vacation or sick leave. Now, they thought they'd just take a little trip. Okay. They'd get themselves some air flyer miles. Now, no, you don't understand. I can sue you for actually anything of value. And that means I will sue you for the actual value of your. I could have 1 billion frequent flyer miles at this very moment. Now, I'm going to want the last 20 years, yes, of you riding in an airplane where the corporation that owns the airline did give you anything right now.